All right, guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's out there staying high speed and motivated and accomplishing their goals, whatever they may be. I don't know if you can tell already, but I might have a little bit of an inflection in my voice that is different than usual. To be honest and frank about it, I'm pretty annoyed with some of the things that I've been seeing on the interwebs lately, especially in regard to Ranger School and especially in regard to this newly released Army documentary of Ranger School. I'm going to get into some of those things before we even go into the reaction portion of this video. Today we're going to react to a follow-on episode, or at least half of the episode that is a follow-on to the other video that they pushed out. That video, the first one, was all about RTAC, which is the National Guard's pre-Ranger course. It's the one that's at Benning. A lot of soldiers go there, they go through RTAC, and if they're successful at RTAC, then they move on and they get a slot to go and try to accomplish Ranger School. Now for context, I do suggest that you go and watch that video. I'll put it right here, and go watch that first before you even continue on with this video. This is basically episode 2 of that video. I want to get into a little bit why I'm feeling a little annoyed today, and hopefully expand some of the minds out there in regard to what seems to be their limited way of thought. There's some, I guess, social media influencers, we'll call it that. There's some people on social media that are well known in the military space. I guess they're military influencers, right? That have also done reactions to this video series so far. It's only been one episode so far, but a lot of military influencers were contacted by the Department of the Army, and they asked them if they wouldn't mind doing a reaction video to the new documentary about Ranger School that they're pushing out. And some influencers are slamming that as the Army trying to use certain influencers to push their DEI messaging or something like that, as if it was some sort of nefarious act to do that. Now I'll tell you, when I got that message, I was super pumped about it. You know, I was really happy that the Army was pushing out information for the future generations out there seriously, especially when it came to Ranger School. I'm like, hell yeah, this is gonna be awesome. You know, no matter what, I'm really excited to see a production done by the Army in regard to Ranger School that they are hopefully is going to do some good for the force out there. Sounds like all good things, right? So that already kind of bothered me. Not too big a deal, but it definitely bothered me a little bit. Now, what really pissed me off was that some influencers out there are saying, and I'm not going to name anybody, I'm really trying hard just to not even bring this up, I just feel like it needs to happen. Some influencers out there are pushing out that the video that was released, again, go watch that if you haven't, is showing off a bunch of soft, you know, with it, quote unquote, future generation softies, you know, making DEI a priority across the force, bringing up that they were wearing masks, COVID masks, as if it was some sort of, you know, bad thing, like soldiers are more soft for wearing freaking masks during COVID. Like, nobody had a choice, you know. That's, I don't know why that even got brought up. Everybody understands that we had to wear masks in that COVID time period. That has nothing to do with somebody's physical or mental prowess, okay? So anyway, but the worst thing is that it's showing off to a bunch of people that are doing their research. They want to see what these people, these so-called experts, have to say about these productions and about Ranger School in particular, and they're saying nothing but bad things. And to me, that is such a horrible thing to do, especially when these bad comments are unfounded. They're not taking in proper context. A lot of them are saying, I can't believe this is Ranger School, when it wasn't Ranger School, it was RTAC, okay? It's a different thing altogether. They're talking about some of the comments that the younger soldiers made. There was one young soldier on there that said, while he was land naving through the river, he said, oh, it smells like booty, I ain't gonna lie. Yeah, I get it. You know, it kind of irks me a little bit as an older soldier, as an older man even, right? To hear something like that, it's like, oh my gosh. But dude, you have to understand, that is a younger generation. That's just the way they talk. They have a different language than we do. I'm 20 years older. We are 20 years to 30 years older than that young man. They speak differently. So did we when we were that age, and those older soldiers at that time thought we were crazy and weak, okay? So there's no difference there. You need to understand that these guys are basically saying the same thing and thinking the same things as we did back then. They're just using different language. It has nothing to do with being soft. It's just the way it is right now. To me, it's a severely limited way of thought to just say, well, I didn't like the way he said that, he must be weak. Like, come on. And on that note, I hate this, and I can't stand this. If you are one of these people, please stop doing this. You need to open your aperture to the way the world is and to the way life is. As soon as a female showed up on that video, that last video, of course, DEI. Why is this young female speaking the way she's speaking, saying she's nervous when she's nervous? At one point, she said, I've been working on my push-ups, and my husband had been through Ranger School, so he's helping me with my form and making sure I'm getting perfect push-ups because that's a big priority for me, so we did it until I got it perfect. And somehow she got knocked for saying that. To me, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. That should pump you up, right? Because there's nobody on this planet that is just born doing perfect push-ups for Ranger School. Everybody had to train for it in some way or fashion. And the fact that she felt the confidence enough to express that she was that dedicated, and even though she knew she was hurting on that event, she was so dedicated that she forced her husband to force her to make sure to do it right. Like, that is good. That is only a good thing. I don't know how that can be taken into a negative context. It's just wrong, okay? And a lot of these soldiers, young soldiers, they haven't had like years of experience to be practicing their push-ups, okay? So, and plus we all know Ranger School will drop you if your push-ups aren't perfect. Ranger School push-ups are different than regular push-ups. They do take time to practicing and to get right. A lot of people have failed Ranger School for push-ups, all right? So how can you possibly question that? Okay, so I'm done now ranting because I think I've taken way too much time ranting. So now we're gonna get into the video. It's gonna be half of episode 2 because episode 2 is 40 minutes long and they've actually broken it up into 2 parts. So I'll make 2 separate videos so we're not sitting here for an hour. And then the next part will be about Derby phase. I've already watched the first part, so I already have some thoughts and some words that I want to push out there. I am going to wear headphones this time, so I will be able to smoothly pause the video, speak, and then resume the video, so it should come out a little more clearer for you guys on this one. Thanks for the comments and the advice on the last one. I'm still learning how to react to videos appropriately on YouTube. But as we go through this, remember, if you've already watched the first video, how that was portrayed. Think about all the comments that I've said now, and let's see how you feel as we're watching this part of the episode. Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it.
If I have a come to God moment, I have to take my PC off, my patrol cap, and on the inside of that, my commander gave me a Ranger tab, the yellow and black one that you get during graduation, and I pinned it to the inside of my PC.
I'm super excited to finally be able to go to Ranger School. It's been on my mind since, I'd say, a year and a half, ever since I went to basic.
Whenever I look at that, I remember that that is what I've wanted for almost 7 years now. That's why I'm here.
I've heard rumors like, the ominous chow thief, someone who might sneak into your rucksack, like nibble at your MRE like a rat, when you're asleep. I've heard of like the hallucinations, like when you get so tired after a few days with no sleep.
I want to see if the hallucination stories are true.
I know it's going to be a challenge, I know it's going to be tough, but I think both RTLI and RTAC have prepared me extraordinarily.
I know that I'm not going to be able to get to do this again, so I can't quit now because this is my chance. This is when I need to get this.
If I make it through our rap week, trust me, the rest will be just a smooth flow because I will work my ass off to get that done.
Surrender is not a Ranger word. It's not an option.
I'm not going to leave until I get it, so just buckle down, stop complaining, and just get the job done.
Okay, now real quick, every single point or word or whatever, every statement that those guys and gals just made is something that you would have heard 10, 20 years ago. Nothing has changed. Those are all like valid concerns, valid worries, valid interests. Like, am I going to be hallucinating while I'm out there on a ruck? If you guys ever had a conversation on a ruck march, around the fire pit, in the field about Ranger School, I am sure hallucinations got brought up. Okay, same thing with not wanting to quit. All those things are completely valid. So I don't want to see anybody out there on social media saying, wow, that sounds so weak. Okay, this is the same thing that's been going on for years. It's not weak. These are all good things. All right. All right, so... All right, and this is just the opener, so we're going to fast forward through that. I don't want to waste your guys' time. You've already seen this. All right. So again, this is all about rap week.
I think rap week is the biggest dark cloud of Ranger School because you hear that's the most drops. So I think I was nervous every single day.
We start the RPA around 0400, where they conducted push-ups, sit-ups, a 5-mile run in under 40 minutes, and then going straight into the chin-up event.
Rangers, your last warning. Shut up.
As the 30 seconds counts down, I'm at 44 reps. And it's like, in 30 seconds, you can get, an additional 5. But he starts not counting them. A little bit of that dread sets in. By the time time's up, he's like 47, Ranger, and I'm like, not again, not again.
The Ranger push-up is just the Army standard of push-ups. We uphold the standard. I mean, it is just simply 49 adequate push-ups.
Part of my training was practicing every single time I did an RPA, I did push-ups twice, and ended up passing the second time.
The wave of relief, I can't even describe. It was like the biggest victory because such a simple movement can make or break, getting your foot into the door.
M1, 240, about face.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there because I already know what's coming out on the interwebs. I already know what somebody's going to say. So that was the same female, or at least one of them, that was talking about training push-ups and had the big concern about push-ups in the last episode. And you can see here that RIs are taking everything very seriously. That is exactly something you would expect an RI to say about the push-ups, that it's the Army standard, we're just enforcing the standard. I'll tell you right now, the Army standard is, at least back when like the APFT days was going on and what a push-up was considered to be a push-up was back then, is not the same as a Ranger push-up. A Ranger push-up is harder. And if that's what the Army standard is supposed to be, then the Army is, lacking in their standards across the board. But that's not really what's going on. What's really going on is Ranger School is like, look, you got to do 49 very strict push-ups, and I'm not giving you any room for anything better than, or anything worse than perfect. That's exactly what's happening. And you saw right here that even though, and I love how they only showed the females on this. I think they did that on purpose because they want to show you like, look, the females aren't getting it any easier. All right. She got 47. Okay. Even though she gave everything she had, she got 47. That's because that is how many push-ups she did. So she had to go stand in line, get her bearings back, and hopefully be able to knock them out. She's got to do push-ups twice. And that happens all the time. It doesn't matter where you come from, what sex you are. If you don't do the standard, you don't do the standard, okay? And you got to go back and you got to do it again. Another thing I'll point out, you'll see that they're wearing masks. So this video is obviously recorded, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, probably like 4 years ago, something like that, 4.5, around when COVID was going on, right? Okay, so it took that long to build this documentary. At least they freaking did it, okay? And don't you think the fact that they're wearing masks just makes it suck even more? Like, I didn't have to wear a mask when I went through. It looked exactly like this, just not with a mask. And it already sucked hard enough. Imagine having to go through Ranger School and do these sorts of things while also having to worry about wearing a mask because of COVID. Like that doesn't make anything weak, doesn't draw weakness. It is a DOD mandated policy that must happen and there's no getting around it. So every soldier is going to have to comply and that's what they're doing. And if anything, it's making it harder on them. So I hate that the mask got brought up. I can't stand that. All right, let's keep going.
Execute event by event. So if you know you have push-ups to execute, let's execute that task and then move to 59 sit-ups, execute that task, run your 5-mile run in 40 minutes.
The soldiers that come here and are very successful train to prepare themselves to come. They came here knowing what the test was going to be, prepared to pass. They did all the prep work beforehand.
Absolutely maximize their preparation, understanding that they need to train up for months before they get here.
Let's hit your 50-meter target. One task at a time. Don't think too much into the future. Complete a task, and then do your 6 pull-ups, and then you can get into rap week.
For those who failed, this is the end of the line. For everyone else, the day is just beginning.
All right, so now you saw how they were running during the 5-miler with a little popsicle stick. Now, that's because it's an out and back run. Obviously, it's changed nowadays because there is a little bit different of an RPA, an RPFT, whatever they're going to want to call it, the entry PT test. But from what I understand, it's a 4-mile run still, and it's going to be out and back on the same track, just a little shorter. But you'll have that stick at the turnaround. So that's how they determine if you've actually ran the full distance or not. So there's really just no cheating it, right? But anyway, so now after day 1, very first morning, the very first event, There were 333, correct? Now there are 274. So that is a difference of, just doing some quick math here, but that's 59. Okay, so 59 have already been dropped just from the RPFT. All right, let's move on.
Some of you are so weak. You can't be beat on 6 inches. Hurry up. Little mental toughness goes a long way. The white squad.
Kind of smoke session, Y squats, the favorite event over here.
3, 5, all the way down.
They all have trash bags. That's because they're bringing their gear that they're going to need for CWST. And they're just getting smoked because of it. No real reason, they're just getting smoked. During rap week, you just get smoked all the time. A lot of times, you'll never actually be allowed to sit during the day. You can only take a knee. Okay, they're intentionally doing that, and it is just to completely wear you out and to make the 12-mile ruck as hard as they can on you.
Already didn't have enough beds for the people in our company. And our eyes reminded us that we don't have enough beds because there's not going to be this many people by tomorrow. Just a slight reminder that there's too many of you anyways, and not all of you are going to pass.
Because if you are that ranger who decides to be selfish and not do what you're supposed to do, you will be peered out of this school. You are not who you're looking for to be a ranger qualified leader.
A few hours pass, we get ready for the water survival assessment.
You will get peered out if you deserve to be peered out. I just want to emphasize that. There's really no getting around it.
To me, I thought it would be fun. I like water stuff. I like doing zip lines. And it ended up being probably one of the most terrifying parts of Ranger School.
What makes this challenging, if you're not confident within water, you're scared of heights, is overcoming that fear.
And that's where the problem also came in place, because, you know, I'm not a good swimmer, I'm a weak swimmer.
Put your hands in your pockets.
Behind me right now, we have the combat water survival assessment going on. And as you can see, we're starting out with the log walk.
I was like, okay, this beam, they look strong as hell. I wish it would be good, but when I got up there, that stuff started shaking. And then the worst part was that the guy in front of me was a little bit heavy dude, so every time he walked, he was shaking the bar. So I was like, okay, this is the day.
Ranger, hurry up! You haven't started yet. Let's go!
I rolled it down, tapped the bar, did the pull-up, request to go down, and they told me to do the pull-up, did the pull-up.
Ranger, Ranger, control. We've got the bridge. Let's go. Hey, hurry up.
Took me a second before I dropped down, because I was like, okay, should I just let it go, or should I say my last prayers? And then one of the RI was like, hey, Ranger, you wasting my time, you better get down.
I remember when I hit that water, it was freezing.
From my fingertips, no, my toes all the way to my head, everything froze for a second.
Immediately thereafter, you got to grab the Slide for Life object and put it over your shoulder and run up the tower.
And then they tell you to run all the way upstairs. The battle buddy was in front of me, was walking, and then the RI yelled at us to go all the way back down and then come back up.
Ranger, put some pep in your step or you're going to start over. Let's go!
Went off, he gave us the task condition standard, what to do, and he told us, like, when you're zip lining, you reach a point, and then there's another RI is going to have a red flag. When it raises up, you have to lift your leg. When it drops it down, you have to let everything go.
I tumbled, head over heels. So bad that the medic stood up and kind of like looked at me as I got out, and they asked if I was okay, and I gave them a good thumbs up, and then immediately into the dawn and ditch.
The pressure of the instructors, the curriculum that we have, and the timelines that we set, it strips you down all the way to your core. And once you're at the basic elements of who you are inside a human being, you get to see who you really are.
Sergeant, Ranger Laundry has successfully completed the combat water survival assessment.
After that, you change, you feel great, and then you're standing there like, again, mentally, one task down.
Okay, CWST is like one of the easiest things you'll do at Ranger School. Obviously, it's not that easy. There's definitely hard parts, and if you have a hard time swimming, that could be a challenge for you. But honestly, there's not a whole lot of actual swimming involved. It's just getting in the water and hurrying up and getting back out. And you definitely want to practice your dawn and ditch, right? Which is going in with equipment, being able to take it all off, swimming that distance, and being able to do all that successfully. Now, I just want to keep that in context, okay? CWST is not a very hard event, but it is still a gut check. It's still like not fun. Well, there's some parts of fun. Going down the zip line is pretty fun, but I'll tell you, even like watching that, the zip line, like, yeah, it's not a big deal. But there's dudes like, I remember when I went and it was just like that. It's exactly right. And I'm sure they just didn't show it, but I remember I'm sure it happened to them. They didn't show it. I remember when I went, there was a couple dudes getting out of that water with like busted up faces, like their nose were bleeding and everything because they hit the water so hard and just did it with poor technique. You know, that is definitely a risk. Okay, so they have valid concerns by saying, man, this is rough. I'm not too sure about that. You know, plus if they've just never done anything like that before, it's going to be significant for them. So anyway, all right, moving on.
Later that night,
we're at 271 now. Lost 3 at CWST.
Everyone's kind
Sounds
of getting
about
a
right.
little more motivated, gathering in the pit, hooping and hollering. So it was kind of a good time. See that everyone's spirits were pretty high.
This evening, we are teaching the Rangers the Modern Army Combatives program, teaching them a variety of techniques. We start out the evening just talking about fight strategy, how you want to approach a fight in order to win and be successful, regardless of your skill level or training. So we teach the Rangers a variety of pummeling techniques. Most fights are going to end up in the clinch position, so we focus a lot in that clinch position.
Based off talking to the combatives instructors at the fight house, this absolutely applies to the real world, so we hope they take that away with them.
It's essentially a smoker. It's there to gas you a little bit and make you more tired for the rest of rap week. Each gate event, you're constantly losing people, so land navigation was the next big gate event.
This is day 2 of...
They don't do the combatives pit anymore. It definitely was a smoker, and that really was the only purpose for it. I know the RI said, hey, this is real stuff. You know, they got to know how to fight, but you're not going to learn how to fight in the span of a few hours effectively. You know what I mean? So it really was just to smoke you, and I think it's actually a good thing that they got rid of it because it didn't really serve a whole lot of purpose. And, you know, there should be more purpose to training if you're going to do it. So let's not waste any time, right? So they did get rid of that combatives pit. You shouldn't have to worry about that nowadays.
Rap week, it's the first test of the morning is the land navigation test. Ranger students come out here early in the morning. They start the course at 4 a.m. and then they have 5 hours to find 4 out of 5 points.
Prior to getting to Ranger School, the best thing they can do is be taught how to conduct a proper map reconnaissance. Do not dead reckon here. There is thick vegetation. There are swamps.
Point 3 was across a swamp and it had just rained. Let's save some time. Let's go through the swamp. You're gonna get wet anyways. It might as well have been an obstacle course because I was hopping from tree to tree, trying to grab branches to cross this.
It is just mentally and physically exhausting, and if you don't wait.
The swamp there during the land nav at Ranger School, this is another thing that gets brought up in conversations. It is legit. You don't want to go through the swamp. Take it from somebody with experience. That's the last thing you want to do. You might get lucky if you make it happen and get through it, but it's a much bigger risk than you think it is when you're looking at it on the map. Okay, so remember that if you go, don't try to go through the swamp. You need to try to go around it. All right, you'll thank me for that. Remember that.
Wake up and give that 100%. If you're giving that 50, I mean, this place will win. You will get lost, and your azimuth will be lost. So use those tack points, use those intersections. The points aren't that far from all these tack points if you use them correctly.
I reached the shack. Over there, the hardest part was just not being able to sit down. We had to stay on a knee.
That guy was on the road. You can't use the roads at Ranger School. What was going on there, I'm pretty sure, like 99.9% sure. At the very end, when you go to check in, there is a little road that you can get onto to go check in. Okay, but you can't use like the fire breaks and stuff like that at Ranger School. I don't want you guys thinking that.
And eat our MRE and shut up. To stay awake while we're standing around, I would start like writing notes in my
260
notebook,
left.
But I had listed out all the rap week events and checked them off as we were done. It was kind of my motivation. After land nav was RTT.
This is the Ranger Tactical Tasks. What we do here is we ensure that the Rangers can utilize these pieces of equipment, and we want to make sure that they came to the school trained and prepared and ready for actual patrols, and when they leave here, they have better knowledge going back into the force.
Claymore, Claymore, Claymore!
For the last 24 hours, they have been through a lot of miles, starting with the little sleep they had today with a 0-2 wake up. Some of them crossed 9 to 12 miles this morning, and then coming straight into this task with just 1 MRE in their stomach, and then with all that anxiety built up. It's always the anxiety for any test in general in a school.
Yeah, when he's talking about those miles, what I think he's talking about there is that if you did fail the land nav portion, then you get a second chance, but you just don't get any sleep or anything because you do it like that next morning. You know what I'm saying? So like, you don't want to fail land nav at all because the chances that you actually pass it, even on your second chance, are very slim. Plus, you're going to be even more screwed up for the rest of rap week. And you got to remember, like these guys and gals, like they aren't getting any sleep, they aren't getting nearly enough food, and they're just constantly getting smoked, constantly going, constantly trying to stay focused and move on to the next objective. Okay, so they are not at their best right now by any means.
Don't want to fail, so they come over here, and this is easy task that all of them have done hundreds of times before, but when you include time and pressure, they're in such of a hurry, so much anxiety built up, and they'll just no-go it for that purpose.
I just probably want to go.
Here at Camp Rogers, for the first week, I walk around and I try to
241
meet with every single one of them that I can. And the guys that I give them is not quit. I tell them to take it one day at a time, one test at a time, one step at a time. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will come. Let's accomplish what is in front of us now.
Malvesti was actually one of
RTTs, you definitely want to practice your RTTs. Do not go to Ranger School without practicing and being very good at the RTTs. They'll give you like a quick few minutes example. They'll show you what the standard is. You will have a little bit of time to practice, but once you're in that line to go, that's your shot. Okay, so you don't get like the whole day. It's not like something you can just learn on the fly. You have to already know what you're doing if you're going to be successful there. And I just want to say, but the reason I was looking at this is my I got this pen at the Best Ranger Competition 2019. That's just a coincidence. I just happened to grab it from out of there. But that's how awesome is that? I'm using my Best Ranger pen to mark this stuff down. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. Malvesti Absol course.
my favorite parts of rap week. They're spraying us with a ton of water. It's kind of cold outside. One of the Rangers in our company just like started singing cadence, and we're all just running in place, getting sprayed with water. At 9 o'clock at night, and I just remember thinking, what am I doing? Like, what is going on right now? It was just such a bizarre experience.
We're currently running students through the Malvesti confidence course. We're looking to stress them out mentally more so than physically throughout the day. With this event, obviously, we're hitting the mental portion a lot more.
You wanted this, you volunteered for it, now you got it.
But at the completion of it, when they get done with their last couple pull-ups and then link in with their tag at the end of the course, we're hoping for that feeling of accomplishment.
The Malvesti obstacle course is just a suck fest. They make it as miserable as they possibly can. That's why he emphasized this is more of a mental test, because yeah, obviously it's physical, right? But it just sucks so much that it's going to take a strong mentality just to get through Malvesti. Now, there's not a lot of people that like fail Malvesti. Usually it's from an injury or from quitting or something like that. There's not a whole lot of room to like actually fail as long as you're giving max effort. Okay, so that's what they're looking for. Are you going to keep going even though it's going to suck? Because if you can't make it through this, you ain't gonna make it through day one of actual Ranger School. You know what I'm saying? All right.
And that's where my journey, I guess, ended, sadly. I was going, I thought I was good, and then near the end, my shoulder got dislocated. I dropped straight in the water. They pulled me out. Once I got over to the medical truck, they put it back in for me. It was definitely annoying because I was like, I got hurt. When you go to the medics for something like this, like I knew it was gonna happen, but when they said I was gonna be a med drop, I was like, something that is just out of my control kicked me out.
What's your name, Ranger? Do you want to be here? So why don't you demonstrate it? Why don't you give some effort? Look at my right. Tell me a sergeant again. Look at my right. What does that say? If you don't want to be here, Ranger, all you got to do is say, I don't want to be here, First Sergeant. You can get up, you can go take a nice warm shower, and you can be done with all this. You don't have to be here anymore. Drag it down the cave because you don't want to get max effort. Do you want to be a Ranger? So hurry up! Give effort! Roll left! Don't be submerged!
I'm just in the Malvesti water, and it's home free from there. You just got to low crawl through the the sea wire.
Put one to your back. You're going to do flutters. Everybody gets here. Stay here. 1, 2, 3, join.
Honestly, Malvesti course is a lot of fun. Okay.
They
I
always
think
warn
that
you,
kind of
check
stuff
your
is fun.
equipment, check your equipment, check your equipment. I'm going through my rucksack and actually making sure everything's attached, from the suspension down to the hip belt, the load lifters, everything. I'm thinking that I'm being very diligent, but I'm like going through it and I'm like, I'm good. Lo and behold, I was not.
The 12-mile ruck was no joke. So we're rucking 60, 65 pounds for a 12-mile ruck march. After being like exhausted for the past 3 days, it's a steady decline of like energy. It was an eye-opener. Like, it was hard.
This morning, Rangers are conducting a 12-mile foot march. This is the last event of Rap Week, designed to test their intestinal fortitude before they go into the Derby phase of Ranger School. What makes the Ruck March challenging is the fact that you are sleep deprived and you're hungry. You've probably been up for the last 24 hours. Definitely gonna have to dig deep to push themselves to go 12 miles with that ruck on. It's just another step that has to be completed in the process of completing Ranger School.
As I hit mile 3 and I'm adjusting, tightening my straps, my quick release completely separates and I freak out. In my mind, I'm like, don't let the ruck be the reason you don't make gains. As I go on further, it keeps happening. And I think that's in my mind where I started like mentally failing. So right at the gravel road where the turnaround is, I'm going down the hill and again it happens. And I know I'm cutting close to time. So I'm sitting there cursing out loud to myself and finally get it back in. I get within visual range of the turnaround point. But as I look at it, I'm like, I didn't make it. Like I didn't make it. And they sound the horn. So I couldn't even like get my popsicle stick to hopefully, make up time.
Ranger, stop.
So right then and there, I kind of just stop, look at the point, and they tell you to just stop and drop your ruck and sit down and wait for the bus to come get you. The wave of disappointment was like unbelievable. Like in that moment, I'm like, I should have done something else. Like I shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I had just not stopped. If I, kept going, just held the strap in place. Like could I even made it? And then we get policed up, and as we're sitting on that truck, we then get transferred to a bus, and we're just following the rest of the formation as they finish the rug. That's probably like the saddest thing. It's like feeling left behind, that you couldn't even keep up just to finish this out. And along the lines, as we're on the bus, the RI turns on.
Okay, so now obviously she didn't make the ruck, right? So standards were enforced. I mean, it's plain and simple right here. This is an Army documentary. I mean, they're showing you she didn't make it. But what she's saying there, that is part of the experience of Ranger School. There will be a part or a point, at least one, where you're going to fail something. And the lesson, like how do you handle that failure? How are you going to process that failure? And how are you going to grow from that experience? Okay, that is like one of the biggest things that you get out of the schools. It's one of the biggest things they teach out of the school, and they teach it through force like this. Okay, there's a lot of other instances that I'm not going to get into now, but this is a great example of learning through failure. Now, she talked about how, what she did, she didn't feel that she did it right. She feels now she has a lot of regret, a lot of guilt even, and wish that she would have done things differently. Now, with all that being said, let's see if there is a decision that's made to try again.
The radio. And as he turns on the radio, the first thing out of the newscast is Russia has invaded Ukraine. So it kind of made myself like stop feeling sorry for myself that I just failed an event, and motivated me to be like, there's real shit going on in the world, so you need to try harder so you can get back to the force.
Surrender is not a Ranger word. I'll never be fallen, comrade.
Once they finish Rap Week, we basically say, hey,
216.
congratulations, you've now completed the easiest part of Ranger School.
That was probably like the hardest part, is just leaving Camp Rogers knowing that I was 6 miles away from getting into Derby. And in my mind, right then and there, I was like, I'm staying for the next cycle, right? So what are you gonna tell your leadership? What are you gonna negotiate, if you will? So I already made up my mind that I'm not going home.
When you got to Derby, you kind of like look around.
Okay, so she has decided, look, I've already come this far. I regret my decision. I'm going to go do this again. She's got to have to go through, if she even is allowed by her unit and by Ranger School to do Rap Week again on the next cycle, if she's even allowed, even if she gets that slot, she's going to have to do Rap Week all over again. Okay, and that's the kind of dedication that is being tested and what they're actually looking for. Okay, these things happen all the time. I don't care what your sex is. These are the kinds of issues and the kinds of revelations that Ranger students experience and hopefully drive success from. There are plenty that don't. There's plenty that just fail and they go home and they have that failure story for the rest of their life and they don't like it. I can tell you right now, like there's plenty of, would-be Rangers out there that never got their tab over something like that. And I hate it if you're somebody that's watching this, I hate to say it, but you probably have a little regret about that, right? So anyway, so I just wanted to point that out, make that clear that again, this is just the first instance. Ranger School is all about continuing on, taking that next step, having that determination, and never quitting. And even if you fail, even if you leave Ranger School for a short stint, you always want to go back because you're not done. It's unfinished business. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, let's go on.
This is Ranger School? Like, this is it? Not like, this is it, this is a piece of cake. By any means, that's not what it was, but it's completely different than what people would think Ranger School is like. But you can't put that into words, so it's hard to tell somebody something that you have to experience for yourself.
It's the field. It's the field, and it sucks, and you're on the 2 MRE a day diet, and you're not sleeping very much.
All right, and we will end it with that. I'm gonna take off my headphones now. And I'll just give you a quick snapshot. I'll leave most of it for the next, I haven't even watched the next part yet, but I think what he means by that when he says this is Ranger School is basically the camp of Darby is it's actually one big building, a bunch of connexes where all the gear gets stored and you sleep in the middle of the connexes. You know what I mean? So it's probably just shocking in that way where it's like, okay, there's like a bunch of woods over there and there's rocks that I'm going to sleep on for the next week or two. So let me tell you guys, I don't care what other influencer out there, I don't know what they're going to do with this. You're going to see more, okay, because I've already told you how this is working, okay? The Army's trying to get this information out to as many of you as possible, to spread the word on what Ranger School is all about because they've been lacking on that for a long time. This channel has gotten a lot of views and everything because of the information I've tried to put out there on Ranger School because it was lacking back in the day, okay? So they're even though they're a little late, I'll be honest, I think it's still a good thing that the Army is doing their best to portray Ranger School in a way that honestly so far I think is pretty legit. I think this is about what Ranger School is like. There are missing some things here and there, but it's definitely portraying the big picture. Okay, they're definitely so far showing the big parts of concern. Okay, now I'm gonna end it with this. I'm just gonna tell you some quick thoughts. Roll it up. There's gonna be a lot of military influencers out there that, and I've been seeing it over the years, that will routinely use negativity to draw you in and to get views and likes and just to stir the pot. Okay, they will do that on purpose. And I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm not going to say anything by name because the last thing I want to do is have some sort of social media fight or something like that. I don't have time for that. But I just want to warn you guys: don't fall into that trap. Okay, don't let that sort of negativity creep up into your mindset and make you think negative about the things that you actually want to achieve in your career, in your life, okay? If this is important to you, if Ranger School is important to you, if anything in the military is important to you, and there's some sort of, negative aspect that is just constantly being propagated left and right by all these different influencers, and it's just draining you, then just stop listening to them, okay? Stop listening to that crap, okay? Keep focusing on what you want to do. Keep that as a priority in your life, and don't listen to the naysayers, okay? Because they're never going to go away. Naysayers are always going to be around. There's always going to be somebody that says, it was harder in my day. This whole DEI thing, honestly, like, I'm being somebody who's lived through it, yeah, there's been some up and downs. There's been some things I could say, yeah, okay, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But grand picture, guys, if you have an open mindset, it's no different than, the Gulf War guys saying to the dudes before GWAT that they were weak and you should have seen what it was like during the Gulf War. It's no different than how I'm feeling as a GWAT guy with these new kids that are coming in saying smells like booty, right? And I get that. I you know, that twinges up here in my mind too, because I'm just, you know, a little older and I'm like, ugh. But that doesn't mean that these young soldiers are not highly motivated, highly capable, and ready to give everything they have just because of the way they talk. You can't just like assume that right away, or their sex, okay? I'm tired of that. Okay, so that's my rant on that. I do think I want to start talking on that stuff a little more. If you guys want me to open up on how I see the Army nowadays, what I actually think, all these sorts of things, like, let me know, because I am more than happy to discuss that a little more. Honestly, I'm just getting tired of all the negativity out there, and I feel like it's time to start fighting back against that, because it's not fair to you guys, okay, to be constantly exposed to those sorts of things. And those social media influencers, again, I'm not going to say anything, should know better than that, and they should be better than that, all right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it at all of that. I hope that was a good video for you guys. Stay tuned for the next part of episode 2, part 2 Derby phase. And hopefully it's as good as that one. I thought that was a really good video of Rap Week. Hopefully you guys did too. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so now so you don't forget. Besides that, make sure to stay motivated, stay dedicated, most importantly, stay gritty, and I will see you on the next one.